Hi, I'm Matt Ingham and I do the press at Cherry Red Records, and I'm here with Iain McNay, who's the founder and chairman of Cherry Red. We're here for the first of the BPI Label Spotlight series, which looks at how record labels interact with fans and musicians. Thanks, Iain. Cherry Red is one of the most long-standing and prolific record labels in the world. What would you put down to Cherry Red's longevity?
Well, we started in 1978 and life was different then because you had things like this that came out, and nice coloured sleeves and records, and I remember the first ones we put out, the actual labels were printed in a separate place from the actual vinyl on the covers. So although the labels were on the records, when they arrived I had to put all the actual vinyl inside the covers. I remember Alan McGee having to do the same thing with Bobby Gillespie on the early Creation releases as well. So it's all changed a lot in that time, and I think one of our keys has been that we have been able to adapt to the changes, even been ahead of the changes, because in any business you've got to be aware there's always changes due, and if you get too far behind your business is going to suffer. So there's been so many stages really when you think about it. The first few years was obviously 7-inch vinyl. Then 12-inch vinyl came in on singles, so there was 12-inch as well. And then a few years later, CDs came in, and when it started, it was really hard to get capacity to press CDs. And then a few years ago, we had the whole world of downloads, and then we had the world of streaming, and who knows what happens next. But as you know, at Cherry Red, we're always looking ahead to make sure that if anything changes, we're up there with it, if not slightly before it.
So would you say that one of the biggest challenges of running a record label is keeping up with the ever-changing mediums that people use to listen to music?
Yeah, I use the mediums as an example, but of course the music changes, how people listen to music changes, so it takes in the whole cultural aspect as well. The whole culture of how people spend their leisure changes. And another thing at Cherry Red is we've been very, very kind of, not so much specific, but we've been very focused on what we feel is important to do in music release. So in the early days we were putting out new bands, and we were very proud to do that. We started out of the punk explosion of the late 70s. So most, not all, but most of our early releases were punk records or had a relationship with the punk or post-punk movement. And then that worked for many years, and then that became more difficult because with new bands, because so many of the bigger labels were competing at the independent label, and independent became indie, indie became a marketing genre, so indie didn't mean independent anymore. And we found that hard, so we had to then move on, look at the business, and at that point we started to get more into independent reissues, and so we got the rights to many of the independent labels that had gone dormant, reissued on CD their material in a very innovative way, and that did well for a time. and then we managed to get licensing arrangements with all the major companies. They were licensing their product. They didn't want to put out again on CD, so we were able to do that. So we've always had something up our sleeve, so to speak, to help move the company forward. And we have the book division, we have the DVD division. We're always looking at different things that we can do. But the important thing is that we all love music, and it's music that's driving the creative side. But you have to be creative also in how you present that music to people.